Welcome to the IFTA Screen Discussion Series, putting focus on each of the feature films submitted for this year's IFTA Awards. Every week, we're putting the spotlight on a variety of diverse feature films representing the best of Irish filmmaking. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by the filmmakers and cast of Lakelands. We're joined today by writer-directors Robert Higgins and Patrick McGivney, actors Danielle, Galligan and Éanna Hardwicke, the recent and for one of the first inaugural Screen International Rising Stars of Ireland. So I suppose that's a nice jump off point to start off with and embarrass you here, Éanna. Congratulations. How do you feel about that?
Thanks a million, Nathan. Great. Yeah, great. Like it was a lovely surprise, and I think, yeah, nice to be in the first Irish crop of them, because it's lovely. It's always nice when you're like with your peers, I think, in those things, when you look around the room and you know either the people themselves or their work. That definitely makes it a bit sweeter. And it's just been a great year for film in Ireland as well. So yeah, it was made it all the sweeter, definitely.
And I'm sure you guys are all very proud as Punch as well.
As always. No, we were so delighted with the amazing work the guys did on the film. So anything that comes that it might contribute even in the smallest bit is great, because we think they're just so talented.
Absolutely. And with regards to Lakelands, Rob and Paddy, can you tell me a little bit about the origins of the idea and why you wanted to tell this story?
Yeah, so I suppose the origins start very early in that we met at football training when we were literally kids. So that's probably where the real origins are. But we fell into the whole corporate jobs and that whole thing in Dublin for years, and we started getting back to writing then. And when we were in our mid-20s, and just stories from our community kind of really were the ones that really resonated with us the most. And we thought it was just kind of interesting. Like, we both grew up playing football for years, and we always thought it was a little bit odd that it hadn't kind of been documented in, comparison to a lot of other things that are touched upon in Irish cinema. So we really just felt there was a little bit of an area to explore there, and it has very kind of unique culture, rituals and routines. So we really felt there was something to dig into there, and use that then as kind of a jumping off point to like look at life in rural Ireland in general, relationships between young people, immigration. These all kind of stemmed from that initial kind of way of looking at things. So I suppose it started very early, and it was just kind of something that kind of always resonated with us.
Yeah, and I might just jump in there as well, Rob. I suppose just one other factor, that was maybe a driving force or a bit of a guiding principle, was just the fact that Longford and the Midlands are kind of underrepresented in terms of film, and are often kind of misrepresented in terms of kind of national coverage and media. So I think we were keen to, I suppose, showcase Longford from our perspective, and to I suppose bring talented people like Danielle and Éanna and the rest of the cast and the crew to the Midlands, and to, I suppose, bring a story that we knew very well to life. And it was a real kind of privilege to work with them and work with a cast of their caliber and the crew of the experience that we had on our first feature.
Yeah, I think you're definitely helping put Longford on the filmmaking map anyway, guys. But the film also sort of touches on concussion, and obviously which inspires a bit of a crisis of confidence, and it is an element of the sport that is still lacking a little bit, and people don't really want to deal with it in case of the consequences of what might happen to players or their layoff and stuff. How exactly did you sort of research that, and did a lot of it come from your own experience coming up with the sport?
Yeah, for sure. I think initially we were looking at kind of the culture around the GA, and I suppose how that culture has been depicted, and again how that culture affects the players who are kind of most involved with it. So I think that was kind of the jumping off point. And then I suppose concussion is something that myself and Rob have both seen firsthand. And we've been lucky enough not to experience a concussion, but we have known people who have had multiple concussions. So I think within that culture, this was an element of it that, was definitely a niche within a niche, we felt. And But then once we started digging, we realized that so many people, even outside the GA, are affected by concussion, and its symptoms can take on so many different forms, and it's probably one of the lesser, I suppose, acknowledged injuries or researched injuries, especially within the GA. So I think that was definitely something that we were very intrigued by. And then as well as that, once we kind of started researching it and speaking to people that had experienced it, and we just realized that yeah, it was definitely an aspect to GA culture that we wanted to kind of explore. And it also fed into the story itself. I suppose our main character Cian kind of struggles with his identity once his identity kind of once he realizes that he can, you know, no longer do the things he used to be able to do. So we just thought it was an interesting avenue to, I suppose, get inside his head and to begin to peel back the layers that he had kind of built up over a lifetime.
And the film had quite a unique journey, having won the Bankside Film Marketplace Award in Galway in 2021. And then you came back and returned the following year, having made the feature film, and went ahead and won Best Irish Feature Film. That must have been a pretty surreal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, we started making this in a very grassroots way, like just really just trying to focus in on making something personal and something that, that's what Paddy said, depicted where we were from and people we knew, the young people we knew. So we were kind of just honing in on that at that point. And like the Bankside Award then was a huge boost of confidence for us. And it also helped attract distributors. With Wildcard came on board after that. And that kind of was, it was all a little bit of a domino effect. But yeah, like just playing at Galway was a massive privilege in itself. And then to win it was surreal, as you said it, completely. And then, of course, for Danielle and Éanna to get recognised for the Bingham Ray New Talent Award was like, it was just really great, because we were just so delighted with them and for them and for all the work they did on it, because it was really, you know, they really put so much into their characters. It wasn't, you know, we developed this in a very organic way with a lot of workshops, and they brought so much, and it was great that we could all kind of share in that at Galway.
Yeah, and you were all present as well, weren't you? So like Éanna and Danielle, just to bring you guys in, you were in attendance as well. So it must have been a lovely reunion, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it was lovely as well for it to be celebrated on home soil, and also like to have our families there. We had like loads of drinks beforehand and had like all the mums and brothers and cousins and everyone. And I think that's like always a really special thing to be able to share it with them as well, because I think like in this career they always tag along on the outsides hearing about everything, and then to be able to see it was like the first time that my mum saw me on like a big screen and stuff like that. And that's it's special because you want to be able to share it. So yeah, that's what I loved about it.
I think it was the same, actually, now that you say it, I think it was the same time. It was the first time my mum saw that as well. And she was sitting next to me when the film kicked off. And I've never felt anything like it, like the electricity of going, something you care so much about that wasn't, there wasn't just another job, that kind of felt more than that, I think, probably for all of us. To see that in a packed cinema with all of your friends and family, and as Danny was saying, your community as well. There's something special about, you know, recognition at a festival, but when it's at home, especially at Galway, I think there's something, it's like it's affirmation from the people you've worked with and come up with the whole way. And that's very, very cool. And the fact that it resonated with audiences in a kind of an immediate way, like I suppose just the reaction during the festival and afterwards, hearing from people, that was a first. You know, I had never experienced anything like that, and it was incredible. Like, so I just, yeah, delighted that it was that I connected with people the way it did. And I think anyone who's at Galway that year as well, there was something in the air. I suppose it's the first full festival back in 2-3 years. The weather was amazing, so it was a lovely one.
Yeah.
Just to back on the back of that as well, just what you said about community, like there was so many, like the film wouldn't have been made without the community of Granard. And I think, you know, when we got to do our post Q&A, Paddy's mum got a shout out for how amazing her bread was, and like Paddy's dad was redirecting the traffic, Rob's mum was collecting us and bringing us to set. Like it was such a community effort, and I think to be able to be there and like celebrate with those people was amazing, because so often you see the people on the screen or the people on the stage, when really it was like we had such a backing of support that I've never felt before in my life. So like that was, yeah, really amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like I feel Lakelands will definitely set a precedent, and there's been a couple of recent independent films that have really showcased how you can really elevate a project by getting the community behind you. I know Redemption of the Rogue was similar up in Cavan, and you can, you know, it's a credit to you guys that you were able to piece together the different parts, the local county council, any sort of Creative Ireland funding, these different things that all piece together, being able to make this, you know what I mean? And it must have been really special to then, you know, can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, the experience of then actually making the project whenever everyone knows that it's going on and they know that you guys are here to make this film that's going to, you know, showcase the community, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a great buzz around town, because as I was saying, like there's not films made in Granard, like especially, like, I mean, so, you know, word got around and there's all these cars rocking around that aren't normally there, and people just start talking. It was great. Like they packed out the pubs for us for the pub scenes. That one obviously wasn't too hard to do. They were happy to come to the pub, but they came to the other stuff too. Like they came to football and they came to everything. They really were incredible. And like, I mean, I think any night when we were on a break and the guys came down to local, like everyone came down to say hello, and like I think Éanna got wrapped up in a sing song at one point against his will, and it was just a real community kind of vibe, like, because it was great novelty in it it's the first time that something like that's been made around their town. So like we just can't thank everyone who wrote in enough, like, because we practically had a film set, because people always ask how it can be done for what it was done for, and it was because of the community and for the row-in and support we got. Like it really wouldn't have been possible without it.
If I can jump in there, I mean, Paddy mentioned start that, you know, they wanted to tell the story from their perspective of their community, of something that obviously they knew inside out. And I think not only for the good of the film, but for the storytelling, like it's you know, not having the community involved or not having that has a serious impact on the end product. Like, because not only did it mean we had amazing locations and places to shoot and people helping us out, but that informs the whole feel of the film, the whole tone of it. I guess it just makes sure that it's authentic, and that it's the kind of that what the lads had written on paper got translated on screen as well as it did, I think. So it wasn't just I suppose just our good fortune, but it also felt like that kind of is essential to the way the film turned out, I think, and the feel of it. So yeah, it was a community, it was, you know, community-led film, and that was just a privilege really to be a part of.
I do feel that I remember speaking before with you both, Rob and Paddy, that you know, you guys did do your time. You told me before about, you know, whenever you first decided to get into this, that you were out in the bog, you know, figuring it out as you went along. And I'm sure for the community to see these fellas that are, you know, you might spot them in a ditch doing something, and then all of a sudden they progress up to the point of that they're making a feature film. You worked your way up the ladder, and I'm sure you must have gotten a lot of support as you went along, where they're like, okay, these guys are actually doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there was quite a few people that still remembered us from the Bog short film, and were like, what are they?
The unreleased Bog short film.
Yeah, my one and only ever acting credit, and there will never be a second. I have nothing but admiration and respect for actors off the back of that one little experience.
He did an impressive stunt in it as well. I was
I was trying trying to do too much in one shot. Let's just leave it at that. But like I think, you know, that experience was, you know, it was, you know, about 5 years ago at this point. And like, even though the end product probably, as Rob said, has been buried like me in the middle of the film. And like I think it was such a valuable learning experience, because it just gave us insight into the different aspects of filmmaking and the different areas that we felt we had kind of more strengths in, and it just encouraged us to bring in the best possible people and put them in the correct places, and just to build a team. And we've been lucky enough to have, you know, to make 2 shorts since then and go into the feature. But each one has kind of helped us progress so much. So, you know, we wouldn't have got to work with Danny and Éanna without that bog short. So the end justifies the means.
And I suppose whenever you obviously decided to hang up the acting boots, you needed to look for new leads in the project, and it goes without saying that I think Danielle and Éanna did a fantastic job in really putting into really believable and relatable performances. Can you tell me a little bit about casting both of these excellent actors? And I'm sure, you know, for you guys, having written the script, it really came across that you needed 2 people that had great chemistry on screen and were able to deliver it in a meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose what stood out was they both done kind of a lot of kind of a lot of different things across shorts and TV shows and features. So that was what really jumped out, because both of the characters kind of go through a lot of emotions. It's not really like all set in the one tone or anything like that. So we had like specific performances we'd seen in previous work for both, and we were like, those are like amazing, and they kind of really jumped out at us, and we were so delighted to get them interested in the project. And we kind of then we were funded by Backstage Theatre to do a little workshop thing, which was amazing. We brought them down, and we immersed them in Granard culture for 3 days, kind of just literally workshopping the script. And like, it was great to see they had amazing chemistry then, and they brought so much to it from there, you know, just tweaking bits of their characters and, you know, lines, and just challenging everything and really strengthening everything. And it was a great working relationship, like, and it's how we like to keep our process, because it was so rewarding to work that way. But yeah, just overall they had such a strong body already, and then to work with them, it was even better. And to work with them in such a creatively collaborative way was just a dream.
Yeah, and there's it might have been mentioned already, but there's no harm saying it again. Like, I think, you know, the characters we wrote, we felt were 2D to a point, and once we had that opportunity to workshop the characters and the script with Danny and Éanna, like, we really felt that, you know, they, you know, contributed so much to the characters' backstory, where they were coming from, you know, and that influenced, you know, the emotion of every scene almost, you know. And so to have the opportunity to build out those characters and build out those scenes with the guys from, you know, a few months prior to actually shooting was just invaluable. And I think that really did kind of contribute to the end product. But again, that was a testament to their contribution for sure.
And from an acting point of view, what can you guys tell me about your first reading of the script and sort of getting to know the characters of Keen and Grace?
I mean, I think that rehearsal that we had, like, from an actor's perspective, from an acting perspective, that's what you'd want in every job, and you don't really get the luxury of 2 or 3 months before shooting getting to have that. So, like, Danny and I knew each other and had done little bits together before, but we got to spend 2 or 3 days with Lorcan as well, going through every kind of detail of backstory, the relationships, the kind of history there. And that kind of, like, that was such a blessing, because then you can spring off that very easily when you get around to shooting, especially when it's a short shoot or when it's a feature. You know, you're not there for long. I guess kind of establishing that chemistry and that familiarity is really important. And like, I kind of knew from the second Danny and I got into the room together that wouldn't be a problem. And I mean, I always say that it's down more to her than me, because I think like any like first day nerves or kind of stresses you have. I remember, I think our scene, one of our scenes was the first scene we did, and it was amazing. It was honestly like it all just kind of drifted off, and any worries about the whole thing kind of floated away, because it just felt like a very, very organic process. And that's, I know that word has come up a few times, but it really did. Like, it felt like we were building on an already fantastic script by kind of adding thoughts and details we had and making changes where necessary, and just adding that kind of like character to it that I think you get in a good story, that feeling that, you know, the characters are painted in great detail, or that you know, there's a sense of a life underneath it. So yeah, as I said, to have that rehearsal is so rare. And then when you're working with someone like Danny, it becomes very, very, that the acting part becomes, I guess, better than you could have imagined it from the script. You know, it becomes something bigger than, you know, all the thoughts and ideas you might bring to it. You know, the ideal situation is that when you're working with actors like Lorcan or Danny, just everything, you surprise yourself, and what you find together in the scene is probably 10 times more interesting than anything you think you found in the script already.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I was first struck by the script when I read it before I'd met the lads, because I'm a bad reader. Like I always have to read things a few times to get like a feeling for something. But I think after this, although I couldn't maybe track every character's arc, I just had I was like overcome with an emotion, and it was just, it felt like very felt, like the way that you'd stand back from a painting, and although maybe you don't know everything that's going on, you're like, you have a feeling, you have an emotion, and I was like overcome with like a feeling that I was like, whoa, I need to go back in here. And I think what I loved about the lads in the script was that it was so specific. And I think like the more specific that you get, then the more general it becomes, in that you can relate to people, because it felt so true and honest to them. And then obviously from that, I drew like my own parallels within the story and was just like so invested. And I just thought the writing as well was really like brave, and like they were like showing, not telling, which was really lovely. Which then, when the real magic started, as the lads have said before, was like when we got in the room to do the rehearsal, because there was they, I think, empowered us as performers to like and enabled us to like have a little bit of ownership over everything, which I think then makes you as a performer more confident. And when there's trust, I think like real magic can happen. And I remember listening to a dramaturg, Ruth Little, speak about a shadow play before, about like the play is the thing, but you have to kill your darlings all along, but those darlings still stay, and they kind of form this shadow play around the piece. So they're not words that are there, but they're things that are felt. And I feel like with Éanna and the lads, like we created this like really rich, beautiful shadow play that was like in all the moments between. So then when we were acting, we had like, I don't know, I felt like I was able to like trust the pauses, or trust the space, or know what I was coming into a scene, and what I needed to leave with, and things like that, which was just like such a gift. And then also, yeah, when I was training, like I was always told you're only as good as the other actor in the scene. And I think sometimes it can be really scary to really like trust someone else and trust an actor. And like, I've just never felt so safe before ever with Éanna. And I really do believe like it was the first time for me that statement from my training manifested itself into reality. And I was like 100%, like, I mean, he's an absolute joy. But I like for Éanna so specifically, obviously, because all my scenes were with him, but I really do feel for the lads as well. Like it just felt like such a safe and like empowered, like collaborative, gorgeous process. And it was, everyone had ownership over the characters, because I wouldn't think of certain things. And then I remember Pat, I was like, I don't get like what the, and Patty was like, oh, but you wouldn't say that. And I was like, oh my God, you're dead right. And I almost felt like, you know, everyone knew, we knew so deeply about each characters and the motivations, which I think just meant that, yeah, everything just flowed. Sorry, I'm kind of waffling now, but they're amazing.
To kind of chime in on that comes from the top down as well, because like that was the story across the board. Like, it was quite a big cast actually for the film, you know. And I suppose I had loads of Danny with Lorcan, with Dav and with Oisin, and there was and Gary Lydon. We had, like, they were kind of 3 or 4 almost different points of the story, like the football, the relationship with Keane's dad, with Grace, with the lads, and there was never a moment that ever felt like, I don't know, like you were kind of performing, or with the best will in the world on a lot of sets, you know, it does feel like there's a kind of a spotlight on you or something, and unconsciously or consciously, little kind of tricks start to creep in, or, you know, you do things to kind of save yourself. But there was something about the way this set was run, which was so helpful to acting, because it just kind of felt like there was almost nothing different. There was no difference between off-camera life and on-camera life. It was all very, very very relaxed. It was very supportive. It was very generous atmosphere, so that, like, when they said action, I never felt like that. I'd said, Danny knows what I mean here, like that moment you call action, your shoulders go up like this and you go, oh shit, like, what am I going to do now? There was never anything like that. It felt very seamless, very organic, and that comes from the way, you know, Paddy and Rob set the tone, and cast and crew, the whole thing was a tight-knit family, which is another cliche, but it's there for a reason, because it was like. But, you know, I learned, I guess, one of the big things I took away from that is when you have that atmosphere, everyone can do their best job. They're not kind of they don't feel like they have something to prove, and everybody's respected and everybody's having fun at work. And, you know, that's good for loads of reasons, but it also makes for a good end product, I think. And I always think the making of the thing should be just as important as the film at the end of it, and this certainly was in this case. Like,
yeah, that sounds fantastic. I think it definitely does, you know, come across on screen. And another thing that I felt very authentic was the setting and some of the scenarios. Like, I believe that you sort of got trusted into, maybe you could walk us through being trusted into the calving scene, for instance. I remember watching that and I was like, hold on a second, that looks like that actually happened on screen.
What department would you call that? Is that like animal handling, special effects? Like, that was one of the beautiful chances, like accidents of the film, I suppose. So first of all, in that rehearsal period, I got shown around the farm by Pádraig, Paddy's dad, and like, that was, I loved it. There was a few things you kind of need to, I suppose, get to know in a story like this. I had to start playing a bit of football again, unsuccessfully, and then got shown around the farm. And so thanks, Pádraig, for bringing me around and kind of showing me what was what. And then there was lots of happy accidents on this film, and one of them was I was sitting on the steps tying up my boots after lunch, and having that kind of post-lunch thing of going, like, you know, I'll have to ease back into this now, like, I'm kind of, you know. And there was just a call, there was like a shout, and I think it was you, Paddy, like, get down here now. And then put on the boots, ran down there, loving it, like lapping up all the kind of like the buzz of it, the fact that, like, yeah, we're making a film and I'm running across it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen now. Like, this is class. I genuinely, not in a million years did I think it was going to be that, you know, there'd be calving involved. And again, quick thinking from Simon, the amazing DOP, from the lads, from Pete, who's the gaffer. I think he was moving things out of the way, and like, it was like the margins were very fine. And we rolled on it, and that was the attitude throughout the film. You know, it was like, again, we've got a great script here, and I think it's watertight, so we can adapt it. You know, if something happens with the weather, or if something happens like that, you're ready to kind of be flexible enough to embrace it and to roll with it. And so that was the work of Paddy and Rob, Pádraig,
Yeah, and
excitement.
just to jump in there, I suppose. So we definitely gave Éanna like a good tutorial on all the necessary farm work, but we didn't want to jinx it, so we didn't give him any kind of insight into how you might calve a cow, because we knew it was a possibility, but it was only an outside chance. So, and then literally the first day we're due to shoot on the farm, and as Éanna says, Dad came up roaring. That was him roaring, not me calling. He was screaming the house down. But like again, like Éanna literally got a 2-minute tutorial on how to calve a cow and managed to do it perfectly, you know. So, sign of a good actor, that.
I think so, yeah. I think if you're able to deliver it as if you've been doing it your whole life, that's a real badge of honor to have there.
Yeah, my dad didn't realize that, you know, you could obviously dub in the sound afterwards. So instead of giving him real-time instruction, he was just playing charades from just to make his task that little bit more difficult. But yeah, he passed with flying colours.
Well,
for sure.
credit to the editor as well, because I'm sure there was plenty they had to cut her out there.
There's a few moments of, you know,
hold on.
looking back.
What do I
Alan had a few long days editing that scene, all right.
I bet, I no doubt. And like, what a gift then, because like it was obviously, you know, it's a beautiful moment. Anyway, so like to experience that on screen for the first time, it's just, you know, a blessing. Like, we got very lucky with lots of things on this job, and that was one of them. And yeah, it was. Her name is Éanna, and she's doing fine and grand. And I got a picture there a few weeks ago. So yeah, who named her Éanna? Danny.
Yeah,
Great name.
Great name.
And Danny, just to ask you in terms of your character Grace, was there, whenever you were reading the script, did you enjoy, like, I suppose I know the guys have spoken about it before, of, you know, what sort of sets this film apart is that Cian isn't you know, a big fish trying to get out of a small pond and wants to get away. He's very, very content with living in the town, and has no like, his ambition is to stay here. He doesn't have any, that is his sort of dream, and then has to confront it whenever things sort of derail a bit. But from the point of view, Grace, she follows that path and then returns. And I was just wondering, from your own personal experience of going abroad to act and stuff, was there elements of that you sort of drew upon?
Yeah, 100%. I think there was always, from our first conversation, even the Zoom, there was always like witchy things. We used to call them just witchy things that would happen, that were like little coincidences. Like, Grace was a nurse in Stratford, and when I read the script, I was living in Stratford in London. So, you know, I find art imitates life, and sometimes there's like a weird soup that happens where things in the script start to be like mirrored in your daily life. So yeah, I mean, I definitely drew a lot on that, and a lot on the like coming home. And I think with Grace, like she never really felt she belonged in like her home, her literal home, like her nuclear family, and then also within the town, and then going to London and trying to think that, you know, a new place would make things better. She's also traveled, you know, Vietnam and things like that. And I think she's searching for a home constantly, I think. And then there's something about coming back and still feeling like you don't belong. You know, she has that line of like, oh, she's been gone a bit too long. So I think there's something of her. We always said that Grace was just searching for a sure thing. Like, she can never find a sure thing in her life that she can hold on to. And I think that's the thing that she finds in Cian when he shows up, you know, at the funeral and stuff, and someone who's just there for her. And I think a lot of, again, like, I can definitely relate to that. A lot of people can. And I think there's between the two characters, you know, there's something of them searching for connection, and not really having the words or the medium through which to communicate that's what they need. And also, I think to search for connection is a really brave thing to do, because you have to be really vulnerable, because you have to give out and also let someone in. I think that's something that they kind of then find at the end. And I think that the way the boys handled that in the script is really beautiful, and not, you know, everyone was like, are they gonna kiss? And it's like, no, they're not, because that's not what it's about. Which I thought was like such a lovely choice and so refreshing. But yeah, what was that it?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Sorry, Éanna, do you have something to say there, or are we just quietly contemplating?
Quietly contemplating.
I wanted to ask you as well, just about the the football aspect of it, because I thought, and again, it was another thing like that, similar to the Kiss, where it you know, someone coming to this who was expecting a lot of football, that's not what it was about. But I felt that the scenes that were involved, and we've talked before about the, you know, they're the nights that I remember from playing football, the dark winter nights under floodlights, where you're repetitiously working on something and you're exhausted. Can you tell me a little bit about being thrown into that? Did you, am I right in saying that you didn't have much of a football background before that?
I had a short-lived and unremarkable football career. And although actually, I was reminded today, we won the Skeena Skull. I was in 6th class. It was like, if there was a Division G, it was that. It was Division G or something like that. But we did win, and I played full forward and scored a point. So yeah, I came back to it, and I suppose thank you to St. Mary's and Granard, who came out and played ball with us for a day, 2 days maybe, which I think made those scenes look really, really authentic. And also to Clanagale in Irishtown, Sandymount, I trained with them for a few weeks just to kind of get back to grips with it. I mean, I suppose to answer your question, like it was so much of the script I could relate to kind of fairly immediately, and then you work towards the things that you don't know as much about, I suppose, like what's it like growing up on a farm, and where football and where training is something you dedicate your life to, which is what it is at the highest level. Like you are dedicating most of the week to it, and then most of the year to it, for year upon year upon year. And I wish I had that commitment and that dedication. So like that informs so much Ciaran's character. And I guess I just learned about that, through playing a bit of football, but then through conversations with Paddy and Rob, and through just really getting to grips with what that means, to give all of your time to this. And when then that is interrupted, that can cause, I suppose, a bit of an identity kind of crisis, or in Ciaran's case it does anyway. That I could come to terms. I think we all could. If someone says, one day you wake up and you can't do the thing you love, then you start asking yourself questions like, well, what am I then if I don't have that? So that was really, like, that was probably one of the bigger leaps I needed to make, was to just really get to know what that's like, and I suppose living for the kind of the love of the game, but also winning and championships and games, and the fact that like there's a lot riding on it. There's your own pride and the pride of the club and the people around you, and I think that filters into the story really, really well. So yeah, we might not show a huge amount of football in it, but I guess that's the point is it's about the on pitch life and the off pitch life, and how that kind of, I guess, has shaped Ciaran up to the point where we meet him. So yeah, if that answers that.
And just in writing it as well, we were kind of really interested to explore the effect of sport rather than necessarily the sport itself, where, especially from a writing perspective, you can get, there's only so many ways you can do a sports film where, you kind of end up in cliche territory pretty quickly because there's a big march to a final or something like that. The films we always loved were sports adjacent kind of films like that, like films like This Sporting Life, or, films like that, where it's not just, it's so prevalent and it's all about the effect it has on the character, but it's not necessarily governed just by that kind of rigid structure. So we felt there was a lot more to explore by opening it up that way and being able to do it kind of in a less kind of cliched way, or being kind of hemmed into kind of the traditional structures.
Yeah, I think just on the back of that as well is something that struck me about the script the first time, just to like, again, commend the lads on like always going with the unexpected thing, like the anti-drama of the piece or something, and the like how the writing at times could be like quite like prosaic, but then there'd be something in the scene that would kind of give this like like poeticness or like metaphor or something. Like I always speak about the dinner with the cling film over it, and I had this like really emotionally like charged reaction to that little dinner with the cling film, because it seemed to sum up the whole thing of like Lorcan's character trying to take care of his son and not quite knowing how. And it felt that thing again, the football, it wasn't really about the football, it was about the identity within the football and the identity within the town and community. And it wasn't really about concussion, because to me concussion is like this invisible illness that you have, and that's about the mental illness that like can come from the effect of these sports and these games and these towns and things. And I just always thought that like you guys did such a beautiful job of that, of having all these little signifiers that get you emotionally without like saying what you're at. That wasn't very articulate, but anyway, I just thought it was beautiful. And in the assembly of the film as well, like seeing it jump off the page, it was like, yeah, I just thought they did such a beautiful job.
I think very articulate. So I thought you have nail on head with that, because for so many people, I have so many family members from up and down the country who like GAA is their life, and they train so much. And I feel for this film, why it's impactful to them is because it contextualizes it in a way that they might not look at it, because they are focused on those things. You're doing, like, if we're goal driven, you're focusing on winning the game. You're not focusing on how much it means to you to be part of the team that wins the game or to be part of the community. Whereas whenever you remove those things, as this film does, I think it then causes, for instance, with Keane, to have to realize those, like, what the meaning of it is behind it. So I think that's why it resonates so much with people. So well done on that, guys.
Well, thanks a million, Nathan. Yeah, and I think just maybe one other thing to add, I think, I suppose with the GA, we're keen to depict the reality for so many club footballers who kind of, commit so much of their life and so much of their time to doing this thing. And oftentimes, I suppose their identity can be wrapped up in the winning as opposed to the contribution. And we just thought that was an interesting reality to, I suppose, depict. And that really came to life then once we started to, I suppose, workshop it with Danny and Éanna and kind of really get in behind the eyes of those two characters. And there's so much, I suppose, comparable energies across Danny and Éanna in terms of that, like, loss of identity, search for identity. But yeah, no, I can't thank them enough for bringing it to life.
If I can just add to that, that kind of, as Danny said there, that Grace and Keane are both going through huge personal things, but very relatable ones, very complex ones. And I think the script, as soon as I read it, what stood out was it never lent into drama with a capital D, as you were saying, Danny. It played into the kind of the reality of what it's like to go through those things, and how you kind of, how you search for something, whether it's kind of connection in their case, or as you were saying there, Paddy, like, I guess seeing something, lifting your head up and seeing something else around you, that it's not just the winning, it's the love of what you do, the love of the game, the love of the people involved, the sense of community, and that I think for both Grace and Keane, there's moments where they kind of like a light switch flicks on, and they're still in the place with that they love, with people that they care about, and they're not taking it for granted. There's like a kind of subtle moment where I think they realize that. And obviously it doesn't mean that everything is fine in the end and life becomes simple and it's all wrapped up in a bow. Life just goes on and it trundles on. But that kind of was something that I noticed watching the film, rather than I noticed making the film, but I really just noticed it watching the film. And it was the nice surprise to go, we made this, but I hadn't really noticed while we were making it that maybe the whole time what the film is doing is kind of going, if you put your head up and look around you, there's pretty wonderful things in the everyday. And I just loved how the script leaned into that. So credit to you, lads.
And can I lastly ask you, just, I'm very interested to know, you've had a couple of opportunities to bring the project abroad, and I know that whenever we first spoke about this, I was very intrigued with the idea of someone in the US who's grown up as, let's say, an American footballer, who's experiencing the exact same thing as Keane, but never realized that there could be this person in rural Ireland going through the same sort of like the universality of it all, and how relatable it is. It doesn't really matter where you are, because these themes are very relatable. What has the feedback been like internationally, and has there been any sort of, you know, remarks after screenings, or anyone spoken to you about being surprised at how much they could identify with it?
Yeah. So we had the US premiere there last week at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and it was interesting. We actually got quite a lot of interesting feedback from it. Particularly, there was a lot of kind of film students who were there, and they were from a lot of, you know, US equivalents of Granard, Longford, you know, very rural places. And they did see a lot of parallels, like, and, you know, even if things aren't exactly as they are there, there's, you know, similar attitudes, and there is kind of that kind of overlap. So it was, and like then there's the immediate parallel of kind of, you know, high school football and, you know, college level football, where, you know, you're kind of treated like a professional nearly, but there's that levels of pressure and expectation tied to a place. So there was a shorthand there. So it was great. It was great to see, and they seem to be able to get through most of the Granard colloquialisms and sayings, and without too much difficulty, which is good. Worried we might have to throw a few subtitles on a few bits, but wasn't too bad.
And for you, Paddy, was there anything that stood out?
Yeah, just on the concussion front, actually, I might not have even had a chance to mention this to you, Rob, but one guy came up to me, one of the film students, and he was a snowboarder reporter, and he had been concussed twice, and he was just saying that the symptoms depicted were very similar to, I suppose, captured how he felt, which was a massive relief, because the symptoms can vary, and obviously it's such a serious issue, you want to do it justice. So I think to get that feedback in real time is class. You know, that's what festivals are all about, is having that kind of live audience. And like, we've been deprived of that through COVID, and we had a short out in COVID that we didn't get a chance to, experience with a live audience. So every time we're sitting in an auditorium with lots of people, it's a surreal experience. And to be in the States getting real-time feedback was pretty crazy, to be honest. And yeah, as Rob said, it was a relief knowing that they can understand the Granard lingo. And interesting enough, there was a couple of ladies, in actual fact, who had grown up in Ireland, who had left in their 20s, and they were just kind of speaking about how they related so much to Danny's character Grace. And I suppose just to have those type of conversations with Yanks, as we call them, is really cool. And it's just great to be able to, make something that people on the other side of the world can relate to in that small way. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and it's excellent. Now I'm looking forward to people getting to see it now. It's out later this year, or fairly shortly now.
Yeah, a couple of months, just hasn't been fully announced yet, but it's coming soon.
Excellent stuff. Well, guys, listen, it's been lovely seeing you all again. Thanks for taking the time. That was really informative. So hopefully I'll see you all soon in person.
Thanks a million, Nathan.
Thanks, Nathan. Cheers, man.
See you later, guys.